Hi everyone, in this video we're going to talk about sum and difference of cubes. That talks about factoring and solving. They're just polynomials that are two terms and both are perfect cubes. So there are two formulas to remember, one for sum of cubes, which I like to call SOC, and one for difference of cubes, which I abbreviate as DOC. They are very similar formulas. The only thing that changes is the order that the signs are in. So for sum of cubes, it's going to be a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. And for difference of cubes is going to be a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. And to remember the signs, we can follow the acronym SOAP. And what SOAP stands for is that the first sign is the same. So the sign from your original problem and the sign in the first factor are the same. The O stands for opposite. So the sign in our original problem and the first sign in our second factor are opposite signs. And the AP stands for always positive because the last term in both formulas is always positive. So remember, we're going to use SOAP, same opposite, always positive, to remember the signs. Now, A and B can be found by taking the cube roots of your two terms. So A is always going to be the cube root of your first term, and B is always going to be the cube root of your second term. So let's do a couple of examples where we factor and solve. Keep it a little simple and then get a little harder as we go along. There are just 3 examples. So the first one just says to factor. So not equal to 0, not equal to anything. So I just want to rewrite it in factored form. There's no GCF. We still always want to look for that. And here I'm going to have sum of cubes. So we need to find my A and B. So remember, my A is going to be the cube root of the first term. And to find the cube root of x cubed, I can take the exponent, divide it by the root, and I just get x. And then the cube root of 27 is what number to the third power is 27? Well, that would be 3. So those are my A and my B, and I just plug them into my formula. I'm going to rewrite the formula down here so we can remember it. It's A plus B, same. A squared, let me use proper parentheses, minus AB plus B squared. So now I can just sub in the appropriate spots. You might be wondering why I'm using brackets and extra parentheses. This is an easier example. As we do the next example, you'll see where the importance of those brackets and parentheses come into play. So this polynomial right here is our final answer. Let me highlight it instead. So this is our final answer. Neither of these factors can be factored anymore. especially the quadratic, the second term when we do difference of cubes or sum of cubes is never factorable. So this is not factorable. So we're just done. Let's do the next one. Here I do have a GCF. It is 3. So we gotta remember to take that out. I can't just get rid of it. So I would have 8x to the 6th minus 1. I don't know what that was. And now I'm set up to take the cube root of each term. So cube root of 8x to the 6th. Well, the cube root of 8 is 2. And x to the 6th divided by 3 would get me 2x squared. So that's my a. My b is going to be the cube root of 1, which is just 1. So I have my a and my b. So it's going to be my GCF. Let me write the formula for you. A minus b, remember same, a squared plus ab because it's opposite, plus b squared because always positive, and sub in. So a is 2x squared minus 1 times, now this is where the extra parentheses really come into play. I need to do parentheses 2x squared, and then I need to square that, the whole thing, plus 2x squared times 1 plus 1 squared. And to simplify this is where things get maybe a little tricky, so I'm going to do this out on the side. 2x squared squared means 2x squared times 2x squared. That's 4x to the 4th. So now I have my GCF times my first factor times this simplified term of 4x to the 4th plus 2x squared plus 1. None of these factors can be factored any further. I don't have difference of squares. I don't have a factorable trinomial. So this is my final answer. Notice how my GCF is still on the outside. I carried it through all steps of the way. The last example we are going to do is one where we have to solve. So this time, steps are the same in terms of factoring, but we have an equal 0. So there's no GCF, so I can go right into my, this will be sum of cubes. So I'm going to have my a is going to be the cube root of x cubed, which is just x. And my b is going to be the cube root of 216. And what I want to think of here is what number to the 3rd power equals 216. And that answer to that question is 6, so the cube root of 216 is 6. So those are my a and b. I have sum of cubes, so it's going to be a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared equals 0. Don't forget that equals 0. Substitute in properly. X plus 6 times x squared minus 6x plus 6 squared equals 0. Simplify what's in that parentheses to be x squared plus 6x plus 36 equals 0. Now, I said earlier, this quadratic is never factorable. You could try to factor it by using FOTAT, but it won't work. So we need to use quadratic formula. So I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. If I set x plus 6 equal to 0, I get x equals negative 6. Hang on to that. That is one of your answers. Then I'm going to set x squared minus 6x plus 36 equals 0 and use the quadratic formula. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, which in this case is 1. And work your way through this quadratic formula. (36 minus 144 is negative 108. I need to simplify that square root as well as take out the I because I'm going to have imaginary number because of the negative. So let me do the square root of 108 over here. It's going to be the square root of 36 times the square root of 3. That's 6 square root 3. So I get x equals 6 plus or minus 6i square root 3 over 2. Each of these whole numbers is divisible by 2. So my final answer, part of my final answer, is going to be 3 plus or minus 3i square root 3. So I told you don't forget about that x equals negative 6 hanging out over here. So I'm just going to carry it over and say that x equals negative 6. These are my two answers. Technically 3 because plus or minus, which makes sense because we started with a cubic. And that's sum and difference of cubes. If you have questions, feel free to drop by office hours.